Hello, comic fam, and welcome tonight to a new show, Cocktails and Comics, where we discuss comics while drinking tasty beverages. Tonight, joining me from two dads, one comic guy, and some comic stuff, we got Eric over here. Also joining us tonight, we got Nick, and then on the other side, we've got Justin. Hey, guys. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
How we doing, bud?
What's going on?
What's going on? I'm happy.
All right, so let's start this off. Number one question, most important question of the evening that we're going to ask each other. What are we drinking?
Oh, I'm first.
Yeah.
I wanted to think of something thematically appropriate, but so I almost went with a White Russian, but then I just punted and made a Moscow Mule in a pint glass because fuck it, it's quarantine.
There we go.
Frozen mango margarita. Did not make myself.
Fancy.
A little bit of Gentleman's Jack.
All right. And I've got myself a nice tasty IPA in this Defender's beer glass, which you can't see because of the glare. All right, fellas. So tonight we're going to be discussing Sean Gordon Murphy's Batman White Knight series. So I hope you did your homework.
Yikes.
Got notes right here.
All right. So just to give our viewers a little overview of what's going on in that series, basically Batman chases the Joker into a warehouse full of drugs. Joker claims that these drugs are going to cure him of his mental illness. Batman just shoves a bunch of those pills down his throat. We end up with Jack Napier, who's the Joker, but without all his schizophrenia. Yeah, Nick. Without all his schizophrenia and his dysthenia. And now Jack Napier is on a mission to prove that Batman is the greatest villain of Gotham, that he creates and perpetuates an endless cycle of these supervillains destroying Gotham. Batman, on the other hand, is there just trying to prove to Gotham that this Jack Napier is the Joker in disguise with his greatest scheme yet to destroy Gotham. And that's pretty much my overview of what's going on. You can even call it a synopsis.
It was a synopsis.
Or synopsis.
There you go.
Synopsis. All right. So first question, guys, for our little comic book club here. All right. Let's talk about the art style. Sean Gordon Murphy cut his teeth in comics as an artist, right? So what do we think of the style on Batman White Knight? And in particular, what kind of stood out for you guys? Justin, why don't we start off with you?
All right, cool. I actually liked Sean Gordon Murphy's kind of gritty take on it. I mean, if you notice, there's been a lot of artists that have kind of made Batman kind of clean cut, and you see all of his, his traps and his muscles and all that stuff. The only thing that I can kind of relate it to is a little bit of almost like a Frank Miller kind of dark tone that he has to it. And I feel like that really plays well into the whole psychosis that you're looking into, Batman and Jack Napier.
Yeah, I get it. I feel it. Hey, Nick, what do you think?
I like that it's not, the lines aren't, it's very linear, but the lines aren't clean. It's like he's sketching it. You know what I mean? It's like, but I dig him, and I love the gloves on his hands. It stops at the fingers, and I love the top collar. And I like how they made the other people functional. Like Nightwing has a biker jacket, rides a motorcycle.
Yeah. Awesome.
The first time on YouTube, I'm not that clean.
No, it's good. It's all good. You were lagging a little bit there, and you were a little jumpy. Eric, what do you think?
I think the art is really the main strength of this book. It drives everything. It sets the tone for it, and I think you can tell that he is an artist more than he is a writer. He's definitely a competent writer, but his strength really is in the art. And I mean, there's a ton of little signature things that you either are going to love or you're going to hate. All the noses are the same. They're all that kind of pointy, swoopy, ski slope kind of thing. And but I dig the fact that it feels a lot of his character designs are almost like Victorian, like they're almost like steampunky without the steam part of it. Like they're punk and kind of gothic. Like they're all like high collars and like a lot of leather and cool little attributes to it. So I really think that that's what sold the book for me more than anything is really the art. And yeah, and I mean he smartly pulls in a lot of interesting elements from a lot of the history of Batman, but which we'll get to I'm sure later. But seeing his sort of spin on those visual cues is a lot of fun throughout the book.
Yeah, I agree with all you guys. And yeah, I mean, what I noticed about the artwork was it's just dark. It's not a lot of colors. There are a lot of shades. Like if he has gray or black, it's different shades of that: white, gray, black, maybe some brown. He mixes in some reds in there.
A lot of red.
Yeah, you really see the pencil work. Like I know the art is done in pencil, or at least that's how it feels. It creates a very distinct style and gritty. Like I think most of us mentioned, the style is just gritty, and it really lends itself to the story.
I just want to say that I think that I think we all read a lot of Batman, but to your point, Will, he stands out. His Batman's unique, whether he's drawn Batman. I don't know if he's done any other Batman works, but this story, like, you could tell it's him off the bat.
Hey guys, I think we forgot to give a little toast before we started this, so may not be too late, but here's to good comics, good conversation, good friends.
Bottoms
Yes.
up.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here's the ASMR of four dudes drinking.
I just got a piece of mango. So good.
Love mango, by the way. Love mango. All right, so let's move on to question.
Who doesn't, Will?
Terrorists.
I hate mango.
Communist.
Oh, you're out of here, ejected. All right,
Kill
next.
the parents.
He's just, you know what? He's like, I'm more of a man than you with his mustache.
That is a very manly.
Yes,
word.
he is. He absolutely is.
Impossible to argue with Doc Holliday.
Yeah, I don't eat mangoes because I'm a
Just don't get TB, buddy.
I need somebody to go over there and yank on your mustache. We just need to make sure that's real.
Jill was just looking at me. She was about to do it. Just a little quieter.
Nice. All right. So next question, guys, and we're gonna talk about the writing style. And I know Eric, you already mentioned very competent. He's a competent writer, but that's not where he broke into comics, right? It was his artwork. How does his writing style like match up to his art style? Does it actually keep up? And was there anything in particular that stood out about his writing? So we'll go to you, Eric, because you already had the first comment about his writing style.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's competent. Like he clearly he knows a lot of the context of the sort of the Bat canon, the Bat lore. What's interesting is that this book was originally supposed to be 7 issues, and they extended it to 8 issues. I think after like the second issue, or maybe it was just the first issue. So clearly there was more story that wound up being in there than they sort of realized, and you can tell that the third act kind of goes off the rails, I think, and we lose a lot of the emotional grounding that was really well established in the first act, and that's kind of like rookie writing problems. Like the endings are hard, and second acts and third acts are hard. Setups are easy, relatively speaking. And he throws a lot of really interesting balls in the air, but then kind of forgets what the important themes are. So that's where it's what could be a great story kind of becomes like a pretty good story, because I don't need all the extra stuff about Mr. Freeze. I don't need all the stuff about there's a lot of stuff in the third act that just kind of goes okay. One of the biggest things that bugs me, I think, is that for all the things he gets right, he gets Barbara Gordon completely wrong. He has that character so, like, Mr. Freeze talks about science stuff, and she's like, what? What are you talking about? It's like, she's fucking Oracle, man. Like, what the fuck are you talking
Right.
about? Like, this is like the smartest person in the room.
I never thought
And
of
she's
that,
like,
but
I don't know what you're
100% right.
talking about. These mice just died. And then it's like, oh, God.
Cute little helmets.
Yeah, I was like, oh, come on. She's like one of the best characters, and you just did her so wrong. But yeah, so again, good but not great on that back.
Yeah, I'll just chime in now. I wrote overall it works. Um, like you said, he gets some characters right, some characters wrong. Batgirl, he probably was just writing her as a foil to Nightwing.
But even Nightwing, he'll like sorry to jump on you, but like he'll like that's such a monochromatic like vision of him. It's like I'm mad at him because he didn't do me well as a dad. It's like over yourself.
It's kind of like the animated series Nightwing, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
He's kind of like there's friction.
But they don't explore it enough to actually have any real meaning aside from him just being.
Well,
like
let's not spoil the ending of Curse of the White Knight, but I feel like that's going to happen in Volume 3.
Yeah.
But what I wasn't a big fan of was that Nightwing he had a pretty major role in this storyline, and there was one part where they're talking about the death of Jason Todd, and as he's describing who's Jason Todd, he goes, that was the Robin before me. But if anybody knows who Dick Grayson is, he was the first Robin. So for him to say that he was the Robin before me, that one right there was just kind of like it kind of questioned the extent of Sean Gordon Murphy's like keen Batman kind of knowledge of that one.
I totally disagree. I'm sorry to cut you off. I think that's him putting his own spin on the universe. I mean, I find it hard to believe that he didn't know Dick Grayson was the first Robin. He made Nightwing the teenage rebel that Jason Todd was. You get what I'm saying? So you have that father figure discord from the animated series and whenever he was like fighting Bane or whatever, right? In the comics, that's how they put it behind them. So I think that's just his way of doing the character a little differently. It's his own universe. He can do whatever he wants.
Right. I mean, this is set in an alternate universe, so he can kind of do what he wants. Yeah, I just wrote that sometimes things just seem to fall conveniently into place. Like, so
every comic book story.
Yeah, but in particular, it was like, he wants to fight Batman, so like the pills are also magically a steroid, get him jacked. There were just some things that just seemed like maybe it was lazy. I don't know. It was like, how can I do this without so much exposition? All right, here's an easy answer.
And the spoiler that we'll eventually get to also is one of those things that comes up, and that's like, well, you just open up a whole can of worms of things that you never fucking explained. Like, but sure, okay, right. I'll go with you.
Nick, you got anything to add?
No, I think it was his own thing, and instead he kind of tried not to go the beaten path. And how many times can you read a Batman story where it's like, how far can Batman get pushed and things will never be the same, and then in a year everything gets retconned and it's the same? Like, honestly, how long is Alfred going to be dead for in the real Batman story? So like he swung for the fences and he hit a double, in my opinion.
Justin, you good, or you got anything to add?
I mean, listen, what I expected from it was just an entertaining story. I didn't think it was going to be groundbreaking. It wasn't so complex where I was like, oh my God, this is like revolutionary in the Batman universe. But one thing that I did appreciate was that like we all saw Jack Napier's kind of plan come together and how he brought it about. And Batman was the first one to kind of read it off T for T before anybody kind of like spoiled upon it. And it just goes to show that he gave Batman that detective element that has been missing from a lot of Batman comics due to listen, you do have your oracles and you do have like Alfred. Sometimes he comes in and he'll feed him information when Batman is supposed to be the number one detective. So the fact that he was kind of able to stumble upon it himself, I thought that was a good touch.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. I feel like he does zero detective work. It's either Harley or Jack are telling him everything that he needs to know at various times. Well, he sits in a jail cell for half of it.
the way that he doesn't really get into detail of how he comes about it, but he was the first one to kind of like state like, he's like, I know that Joker is, as soon as he touches the clay and he goes, like Clayface is involved in this, and then he just automatically comes to the realization of, all right, he's dispersed Clayface in between all the supervillains, and now he's mind controlling him through Mad Hatter's cards. So it was kind of like, that wasn't fed to him. It was something that it came up on his own, but Sean Gordon Murphy doesn't really show us his detective skills of how he got that information, but it shows that he understood what was going on.
I think one last thing on that. I think when you look at it in terms of like the larger picture of Sean's world that he's creating, like this feels like a necessary building block to what comes in the next chapter with Curse of the White Knight. I think Curse of the White Knight is a much stronger story overall, where he gets to really come into his own in terms of building mythology and building that this world of his. So I feel like he's dipping his toes in to creating his own world here, and I think where it deviates is so much more brought into like a bigger relief because of that, because it's not just his completely own vision. It's like so much a pastiche of everything else that when he makes like a big swing in a weird direction, you're like, but no, that's not right, because we're not in tune with the fact that like this is his world. It just sort of feels like, this is the world that's been created. I'm just sort of like moving a few pieces back and forth here in my own way. So it feels like a necessary evil to sort of, he had to burn through this book in order to get to Curse of the White Knight. And hopefully the third iteration will be, even stronger.
Like the first one was more unexpected than the first one took me more by surprise than the second one.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody expected this to be as good as it was.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean
Like
that it's great.
I was a
but
Metal
I don't think
guy.
anybody was.
I think this is so much better than Metal, and I thought Metal was going to blow my mind. And it did.
I agree 100%. Yeah. That is recorded proof that I agree with Nick about something.
And I'm going to put one thing out there for Death Metal. If Batman doesn't have a chainsaw, like I'm seeing in all these Instagram pictures, I'm going to be pissed.
Like when
All
Batman
this
wrote
false advertising on the
dinosaur?
covers. When there was no medieval fighting, it was all medieval art. I'm sorry. I'm going to calm down halfway through my margarita.
We're talking about White Knight. White Knight.
All right.
Snyder, finish the story. Jesus.
Let's reel it back in. Let's move on to themes. Were there any themes in this this comic that stood out, or in the series that stood out? And how do you think they were brought to life or to light? Let's say, Nick, go ahead.
This is where I think the novel shined, in my opinion. There's definitely the theme of obsession, and he kind of took Frank Miller's Joker's obsession with Batman, where there is no Joker without Batman. When you look at his cell and you see the toys and the action figure, I was kind of jealous. I mean, this guy had every Batman toy. There was a lot of respect shown too with the styles of art. You saw a lot of the Christian Bale Batman, the Michael Keaton Batman, a ton of love for the animated series and all those things. But you see a cell and he Harley kind of spells it out for you, and that's where I think Eric goes with in terms of how it's a cliche, where she says you were in love with Batman, and I felt the story would have been better if she didn't say that, but that was like, to me, you saw that was my favorite part of the story, in my opinion.
I mean, I totally agree. Obsession is a big theme in there, and it's kind of spelled out for you at some points. But yeah.
Yeah, that's where I agree with Eric. So it's documented both ways there.
All right. So Eric, you want to say something? Looks like he threw the ball.
I mean, I don't think that the themes explored here are really all that groundbreaking. They're kind of the same themes that are explored in pretty much every Batman book. It's like family, it's do the ends justify the means, and all those sorts of things. Sean's interesting that he flips the binary. It's the Batman gets pushed to a point where he has to enlist the psychopath in order to take down the big bad, but this time it's the other way around. So that's a neat inversion of the archetypes. But I feel like, again, it's a lot of it's that sort of more elementary stuff. He does them well, and I think the duality, I think the largest thing that plays well for me is this idea of the two women in love with two different sides of the same person, and what that does to a person when you potentially lose that person, even though that loss might be a good thing, for society or for the person, which plays into that idea of obsession and single-minded, egotism and whatnot. But yeah, I don't think there's anything too terribly groundbreaking here.
To answer your point, he kind of took a "if it's not broke, don't fix it" approach.
Sure, yeah.
I agree.
But again, that's like testament to the fact that like he's not really like breaking the mold in terms of like this is my world. It's like this is the backstory, Okay.
Justin, you got anything to add?
Um, I actually like the fact that he used a lot of like political corruption for his take on the Joker's kind of main scheme. Because usually, the Joker runs around and he creates havoc and he blows things up. He destroys things. And the fact that he was manipulating people in a way that we've never really seen in a very sane, like stable mind state, and he was using like political avenues to kind of go that kind of direction it was kind of relieving to kind of get that take on it. It was kind of relieving to kind of get that take on it.
No, yeah. I think, no, what you said was, I can't add anything to that. It was good.
I mean, but he took it from Frank Miller, though. Like, that was a big Dark Knight Returns element. No, isn't that's where the media has a big part in that? Like, the news anchors, like, talking back and forth.
Yeah, but
yeah, the interesting complication there, though, is that he kind of takes the social justice warrior thing and kind of turns it on its ear, because like those are the people that the Joker that Jack Napier is appealing to and bringing to the table and being like, look at the fuckers, taking charge of everything and actually, capitalizing on this. Take those people down, eat the rich. So that's interesting, because that's not Miller's world.
Well, no, just the news itself. You just relate.
The place of the media. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that I did find a little comical was the fact that it wasn't until there was video footage of him like physically beating down the Joker where people were like, "Oh my God, he's an animal!" And it was just like the Batman has been going around the city for years upon years. You see him constantly just beating down people. It's like now, since it came on a cell phone video, is now everyone's like, all right, I've had enough. But I mean, that was a weak point for me.
And also, what is this world where apparently the Joker has been, doing all of his crimes for like decades, and the only thing they got him on is like robbery?
Yeah, the only charge ever. Robbery.
That's Batgirl's biggest contribution, where Batgirl's purpose is to show how destructive the Batman's gotten over decades and decades. Like, I think that's her biggest, the only thing he got right with the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, personally, I think I just think I took like the love and hate relationship. What is love? What is hate? Are they related? Are they the same? I mean, the Joker just outright says, he's like,
I was gonna say the book is pretty clear on that.
Yeah, they're the same thing.
Psycho ex-girlfriend. Those crazy eyes.
But I mean, it touches on all stuff that Batman's already hit: death in the family, mental illness, abuse. What do all these things do? How close relationships are, and how close that relationship is between like love and hating somebody, and especially when you're dealing with family. Like, you love your family, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure you hate something or something about them in family.
Everything about them.
It really
I like how Cuppy pussyfooted around that one and Dick went for it.
And now we drink.
All right. So moving on from that. Let's talk about the title, White Knight. Was it significant, and did it work? Yeah, I'll go first. Why not? Yeah, it worked to me. I believe. Simple answer. We're gonna keep it quick. No, but I believe everybody in the story, believed what they were doing was right. I think even Neo Joker thought what she was doing was right, because she thought that Jack Napier wasn't a real person, wasn't who the Joker should be, that it was drugs that were changing the Joker into something he wasn't meant to be. So I believe she then felt justified in what she was doing. But I think everybody in that story just had a take where what I am doing is to save somebody else. It's selfless. It's a selfless act. That's my take on it. So, Justin, why don't you add? Subtract.
I mean, you kind of hit it on the head. That was kind of like the perfect title for it because everyone was kind of just acting in pure like they were acting in like pure faith in what they believed in. So I definitely agree with what you were saying.
Got it. Nick?
I think it plays again to the duality of there's always a yin to a yang, light and dark. Whereas Batman's the Dark Knight, he's the White Knight. Because if you see in the comic, even though he's sane, he's still like there's little nuggets where he still wants to beat Batman. Where Harley tells him like, calm down, like you don't need to like take him on anymore. We're gonna do the greater good. Like he wants to fight him, he wants to beat him in a fist fight. There was no reason to fist fight Batman, besides like the fact that to the character's core, whether it's Jack or Joker, he wants to be Batman's foe, or I can't think of a good word. Eric can probably help me with that.
Nemesis.
There you go. Which is what I call you, actually.
The Nemesis. And Eric.
Oh!
That's a story for another time. Charles Soule.
We got content coming.
Eric, why don't you take us on?
I mean, it's all that stuff, and it's obviously putting right on the tin the fact that he's trying to invert our expectations of what the story is going to be. I am glad though that what's his name, Duke from Backmore makes a point of using the other connotation of white knighting, like the coming in and gallivanting in and saying that you're going to help when it's really for your own auspices and not for the minorities or the whatever disenfranchised people that you say you're going to be helping for, which is an interesting thing to look at when you're looking at it within the lens of what Batman does, which is like, I'm saving the city, but at what cost? And who's the people who lose the most in this crusade? Which again, a question that's raised often in these stories, but I was glad that somebody was sort of aware of that, and there's somebody who can speak to that experience, that as they're destroying the disenfranchised minority property in order to advance their plot. There's somebody who's like, wait a second. We people live here, and like so it's interesting that there's a face to that, which I feel is something that's often kind of glossed over in a lot of the stories.
Right, which is an interesting fact you bring up, is that it's not just about Gotham City General in public, the central part of Gotham. They also have Backport involved, so you get
Backport.
So you get two different.
Didn't they call it that?
What was that?
Blackport? Don't they call it in the comics?
They like derisively called it Blackport.
Yeah. But you get.
I'm not racist.
But again, that's great that he includes that conversation about how they label parts of their city and how they can write off parts of their city because of who lives there.
I'm just gonna put it out there. White Knight Duke is cooler than main continuity Duke. I'll put it out there.
He's also older. Justin, you were saying something?
Yeah, but I'm saying that touches in because we all grew up in certain areas where all right, don't go to that town because that's like the bad side of that's like the bad side, and it's like they gave them a little more of a human personality where they were people that they wanted to do better for themselves. So that's why they were so enlightened to have Jack Napier come in, because they're like, what, this guy really will turn things around for us. So it kind of gave them an aspect, because since that was supposed to be like the hard part of town, and the fact that they were willing to kind of better themselves, it kind of gave them more of a personality.
Yeah, and it was interesting that they all the gangs in Backport decided to come together to try to better the community and in some ways stick it to the GCPD.
Well, yeah, because the GCPD had abandoned them.
Right.
Well, the other thing too that I think gets missed is he uses them. Like that's why he builds the library in the poor part of town, and he destroys it on purpose just to get access to the records.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of the a larger part of the story.
So
which is one of the weird things that Duke acknowledges that he did that, but still's like, well, but he's not that bad.
Yeah. It could have been worse.
True.
Right.
Duke is an interesting character. not to go off topic, but
I like the militarized part of it though, where he was
yeah.
like, and then he goes into the GTO.
Right. Yeah. And in some ways, he's probably a little bit of a white knight himself because he's the guy who's orchestrated the whole backport organizing and community togetherness.
Kind of Commissioner Gordon. He does the best with what he can with limited resources.
Right. Yeah. That's an excellent way to put it.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Is Batman a villain in the book? Is Jack Napier a hero? And if you want to touch on it, were any of the actions justified or tainted, by their past together? Nick, you want to hit this one?
Yeah, I think I like this a lot because it was very gray. Like I don't think there was a specific hero to this. I think they all have their parts to play. I think the thing that I really enjoyed the most was this is obviously a book where Batman's pretty far along in his crime fighting career, and he's not evolving. He's I like that they show him as a little unhinged because let's be honest, if we saw our parents get killed at 8 years old, put on a bat suit and beat people, we wouldn't be the most mentally healthy people out there, right? And I like that they touched upon that. Alfred was like the last bit of vestige of him, his humanity, like holding him back from really doing damage. And you see like he's lashing out because Alfred's dying the whole time, where he doesn't care about the collateral damage. He just wants, it's not about saving the innocent, it's about punishing the guilty. And I like that about the character the most.
Nice. Justin, what do you got?
Well, I mean, I don't see Jack Napier or Batman, either of them, to be the villain in this story. Because by the definition of like a villain is someone that to have like an evil motive behind their actions. And I don't think either of them had evil motive behind their actions, as Jack Napier really was trying to kind of control the amount of range that Batman had, because he had freedom to do whatever he wanted, cause whatever collateral damage, and he was scot free. He could, he got the fucking the green light. So for Jack Napier to kind of stand up against the Batman, I don't think it was an act of like vindication against him. It was more of like, this is the right thing to get things in the right process. And Batman, having his own history with the Joker, cannot see past the fact that maybe he did turn a new leaf. So to him, Jack Napier was just a ploy where he said, no, like I have to stick to my guns because I know something's not right about that guy. So, I mean, he was acting in a sense to save Gotham as well as Jack Napier was. So, I mean, if you did have to label one villain in the whole storyline, it would have to go to the Neo Joker. Her actions were complete self-absorbed. All she wanted to do was cause destruction for her own self-gain. She wanted to gain back the Joker as her lover, and she was going to go to whatever great lengths in order to establish that.
Well said. Eric?
I mean, I think that the point of this is that it's underlying the fact that there is no absolute, and to kind of countermand you there a little, Justin. I feel like every good villain is the hero of their own story. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's what he's trying to do here, is that everybody is justified in their own minds, and all of them do shitty things on the way to what they perceive as being good things. And that's the problem, is that when you stretch your moral code in order to attain what you think is actually good, does it still remain good? And because Jack does bad things on his way to good stuff. Batman continually does bad things on his way to good stuff. And Harley and Neo Joker are the same. I think that an argument can be made that Neo Joker is no more antagonistic than any of the rest of them, because she sees Joker's presence there as maintaining a continuity, maintaining a consistent archetypal dynamic that keeps Gotham City going. I think she's the weakest written of all of them, and that's why it's probably easier to classify her as being a villain, because she doesn't have that nuance. But I think that she's operating with the same sort of parameters. Um, the biggest issue,
Stockholm syndrome.
well, yeah, lost my train of thought there. Blame it on the vodka.
That's why we added this little twist. It's a twist.
Right.
But you were talking about the Neo Joker and how he
Yeah,
is.
it was something. It was, yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's in the ether.
He'll come back.
If you get it back, you get it back.
Yeah, if it's important, he'll come back.
I believe that it is very gray. They were both villains and they were both heroes. They were just blinded by their righteousness. They both believed that they were right in their own eyes. So, in my personal opinion, they both had a little villain in them. But I think in their own eyes, they were both a little bit of the hero. It was really just they believed. They had that righteous feeling, and they just believed.
I remember what I was going to say. What I think I don't remember which one of you initially brought it up, but what's interesting. Oh, it was Nick about Batman not evolving, because I think what's interesting as a point that's underlined is this idea of people being incapable of rationalizing that someone can change. And the impossibility that somebody can accept the Joker as being a good guy, the inability of people to accept that Batman is a bad guy, and how those sort of monolithic absolutes are really difficult to upend, which sucks, And it's one of those things that I think is very topical, especially when we're looking at like political campaigns and things, like everything. When somebody dredges up something that somebody said when they're 16, when they're now 45 and trying to do something, it's like you're a different person. Then you make mistakes, you do things like to judge them on their current trajectory is you need to factor in the past, but you can't necessarily let that blind you to every potential in them and the possibility that they might be earnest in their new direction. Turns out that Jack isn't. Fooled you. But still. Actually, well, it's not even that Jack isn't earnest. Jack is actually a pawn. He didn't choose to do this. He was. Spoiler.
Yeah, let the cat out of the bag. We're halfway through.
It was all a ruse that was set up by the original Harley. So his intentions aren't actually even really his. So that adds an extra wrinkle to it, which is interesting. But I think ultimately I still am not sure where I come down on it because of the fact that it's not his own agency in that matter. He didn't choose this path, or at least he chose it without realizing that all the choices were forced.
Yeah, I mean,
which I'm not sure what that does to his earnestness.
I gotta say, I was totally shocked that I thought it was like he was faking it and just got the plastic surgery. So like when it was like Jack and Joker were two different people, I was like, whoa.
I guess since we said it, yeah, Harley just being the
main
catalyst.
Like,
yeah, Harleen being the catalyst for all this. Who saw that coming? Oh, no.
I thought it was cool that they kind of mocked like the Margot Robbie costume too, where she kind of like makes fun of it, like.
Yeah.
Because there's two like generational divides. Like my girlfriend's friend's daughter loves Harley Quinn, but she only knows like Margot Robbie, where we know like the Paul Dini.
Yeah. Well, she basically said, yeah, you set back feminists.
Set women back, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going that far. I'm just saying it was funny seeing like two different costumes. Like I thought that was.
It was actually a nice twist. Yeah. And it led to what was it? Issue 3, cover B, being worth like $20 for its cover.
All I'm gonna say is Volume 3. We're gonna have Bad Harley. Calling it.
Guys, do you have a favorite character, or is there one you relate to? And then there were a lot of sad stories in this. Does anyone stick out in particular? Let's go with A, and then if we want to touch on B, we can touch on part B of the question. So, favorite character. Justin?
I mean, if I had to choose one, it would probably have to be Harley Quinn. I think you see a completely different aspect of her where she's always used to being like, like the sidekick to the Joker's psychosis. And it was the fact that she was able to manipulate everyone involved throughout the whole storyline to kind of put every puzzle piece where it needed to be in order to reach the final product. I think it was a really good sense of the power and the type of character that she can be in the Batman universe and the respect that she deserves to have.
Eric?
Yeah, I would say that Harley actually has my heart in this book, because all those reasons. Like she's the smartest motherfucker in this book. She's the one, pulling all the strings, and she's the one that I think I just on a brass tacks level empathize with the most, because of how earnest she is, and how much she really does of everyone. She holds out the most hope for the most despicable person in the story, and despite the fact that everything goes pineapple on her, like her intentions were good, and her intentions were good for someone else. It wasn't just for her. Like, yeah, sure, like it'd be great for her to have a mentally competent husband and who doesn't go around killing everyone. But at the end of the day, she really was showing that true nature of the nurturer, the person that wanted to become a psychiatrist and help people. And she just took a very hands-on way that didn't go the way that she hoped it would.
Nick?
Well, I guess I could say for Harley, I like the fact that when she talks to Batman and says, like, if you and Jack work together, you'd actually like really fix stuff. But besides that, I really liked, I wouldn't say he's my favorite, but I related to Commissioner Gordon because it really shows him working with limited resources, where you see him evolve from blindly defending Batman to the point where this is too crazy. And then the GTO comes about where he still loves Batman. And at the end, they obviously, spoiler alert, they reconcile and Batman agrees everything's gone too far. But his conflict throughout the whole story, I kind of enjoyed as like a little side thing.
Yeah, I have Harleen as my favorite character because I love how she just does the 180 and goes from super villain to like super heroine. And I was kind of glad she was the mastermind behind the plot.
She also has the best glasses throughout the whole thing.
And
right?
the short hair, I love the short hair.
She's got that like Mia Farrow 1970s look throughout the whole thing,
love
which I dig.
short haircut. I really do.
So yeah, it seemed like 4 votes for Harley for favorite character, the Harleen one, the original one, not the fake one or the Neo
Oh,
Joker.
Robbie's gonna sue you, bro.
Oh well. I also asked about the sad stories, and did anyone stick out in particular? I'm just going to take a quick stab at this because my character actually doesn't appear.
Oh, you're gonna pick Jason Todd.
And I am.
That's
The Jason Todd story.
Yep.
Because he let Batman think he was dead just to get away from him. Spoiler for anybody who doesn't know. He didn't die in this series. But
Why are you spoiling Volume 2?
I didn't. I'm just stating what happened in Volume 1.
You obviously haven't finished Volume 2 yet, have you?
I
Well,
did.
you're the one who just spoiled it.
Yeah, you spoiled it.
They reveal that Jason's alive in this book.
Yeah, he's in the military.
Yep.
We don't know that
No.
in this book.
Yeah, that's gonna have to
That's
put a
called a
disclaimer.
spoiler.
It's literally the
I'm aware
last page.
spoiler
Disclaimer
Justin,
in the
thank you.
descriptions below.
That mustache doesn't make you smarter than everybody. It just makes you look cooler.
I apologize to the audience for Nick and his spoilers for
The margarita's gone.
for the next.
Blame it on the mango.
Yeah, blame it on the mango.
It was fermented, all right? It was like
Mango!
it was like the worm in tequila.
Eric, was there anyone who stuck out in particular in the sad stories for you?
Yeah. R.I.P. Barbara Gordon's dignity.
Nick?
I just think both the Harleys. I feel like the new Harley, because everyone's poo-pooing her, like it touches on a good point that someone who has a career, a good job, is cutting themselves, and no matter what, some of us aren't happy. And even though it was a monster, it goes where he bandages her wounds and whatnot. So I thought that was per se. Where generally it's kind of cool that Harley Quinn, the Harley Quinn we grew up on anyway, is a victim of the Joker, right? In terms of how he creates her, abuses her. Like, there's plenty of evidence in the comics for that. This one, he built up this Harley, so I thought that was pretty cool, but sad.
Justin, go ahead. When I regain this, I will.
Don't be Molly from First Take. You're the moderator.
Yeah.
Originally, I would have said Jason Todd, but you already touched upon that. So, I mean, if I had to go out on a limb, a sad story that really kind of touched me on this one is probably Jack Napier. The fact that if there is that other side to the Joker that we really don't get to see too much, and he's suppressed behind the Joker's mental insanity, and the fact that now, since he's no longer going to be receiving these pills, and now he was the only shred of kind of human interaction where you can kind of relate to with the Joker. It made the Joker human for you, and the fact that now that that's kind of completely all cut out, it's kind of sad to see that there was a shred of hope. There was a little slimmer of hope to kind of turn things around, and now it's all back to chaos.
Yeah, the idea that like the Joker is just this elemental force of chaos is terrifying. The idea that there is a completely sane person fighting to get through that is even more terrifying.
And also kind of sad that he always loses.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Definitely. And what I wanted to touch back upon with Nick, what Nick said about Neo Joker, whose name turns out to be Marion Drews, is that it just goes to show, like, you could have a nice job set up and, you know, have everything, all your ducks in a row, but sometimes you just yearn for something new, something more, something new, and she just took it to a whole new level. Like, the Joker was a whole new way out.
And also, to Eric's point, they kind of spelled that out. Like, that wasn't hard for me to decipher.
Yeah. I think a lot of the stuff is just, it's fed. It's force fed to you.
Yeah,
Or,
I mean,
you know.
it's in your face.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
There you go.
So I don't think many people come to Bat books for subtlety.
Yeah, all right. Basically, you want to get punched in the face with a bat book.
I mean, it's been around for 70 years. Like, what ground can you make on it?
Bam! Bam!
Ow! That should have been the toast right there.
Bam! All right. On that note, does anybody need a refill or go to the bathroom? Because we're
I already cracked a new
a
one.
little.
I'm going to get one. Time out.
All right. We're going to call a timeout here. Hey, comic book family. Hope you enjoyed part 1 of Cocktails and Comics. Part 2 will be coming out soon. If you like what you saw, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Peace.